Mess. Welcome into an all-new episode of Panthers on Tap. I'm Curtis Rauen, joined by Bryson, Karbley, Ricky Raines, coming to you guys on a Wednesday evening after a heartbreaking wild card loss on Saturday night against the Los Angeles Rams, 34-31. Man, guys, we were talking before we got on here. It sucks. We got nothing else to root for the rest of the playoffs. Really thought Carolina might have pulled off the upset, and they just faltered at the end. We'll get into all of that this evening. A lot to talk about. We met a lot of people. Cam was back, everything in between. But first, Bryson, Ricky, how we doing?
Yeah, man, I wish we were joining and talk about another week of playoff football versus the Chicago Bears, I guess it would have been. But unfortunately, we're not. But, you know, I've got some good things to say about the year in totality and good things to say about the game, you know, this past weekend, especially talking about what you mentioned, Curtis, the bank, the environment, the people. It was awesome. It was a fun experience. It was a day I won't forget, man. It really was. So just excited to chop all that up with you guys and talk some Panthers football.
It was awesome on Saturday. The lead up to the game was remarkable. I can honestly, like, I could play every single moment in my head, and it makes me like smile just thinking about how it all played out. Getting out of the Uber, seeing the line wrapped around the damn building for the Riot tailgate. I'm like, I don't even know if we're gonna get in here. This is how excited everyone is. I hadn't seen the city that excited for a Carolina Panthers football game in a long time, and the fact that everyone was going to the same spot to see Cam Newton. Cam Newton did not disappoint. What, like, the opening speech that he gave, man, just about being there for the first time as a fan and what it meant, like, so much cool stuff, man. And then all of us getting to hang out together, right? Like, drinking beers, meeting everybody, hitting multiple different tailgates. Shout out to Panthers fans, tailgate Panthers fans with a Z. Shout out to them. Talon was up there, Panthers fan of the year. I mean, dude, it was just terrific. But you're right, guys. Like, when we got on tonight and we talked to each other initially, it was like, so what? We just talk about how this sucks and that's it and everything's over. Like, you know, I feel like Tony Soprano at the end of the whole series where it just cuts to black. Like, it just stopped on me out of nowhere. And I don't really know how to live, but I'm happy to be here and try to put the pieces together with you guys and the rest of our chat. I'm looking forward to talking to everybody because, man, end of the day, sixth season for the Panthers and Panthers on Tap.
Let's jump into what we're drinking, and then we'll get to our chat, and then we'll start this thing off here. So if Ricky, you want to pull up your sweet jazz music and everything else.
I do. You know I want to.
I guess I'll start. I just got garage beer. It's been sold out at the local grocery store by us, but I found some today, and you know, maybe one day these guys will sponsor us. I would greatly appreciate that.
That'd be cool.
That's all I got. What are you guys drinking?
I'll hop in real quick. I got a very local brewery to Raleigh. It's a smaller one, really cool. Like, the owner works the bar, and they do like my wife loves. They do like a Taylor Swift theme, like for her album releases and things like that. But it's called Fun Guys, and like after a mushroom, I guess, but also like a play on words for Fun Guy. This is their hazy. It's just called Fun, and their beer's really good. And I just like supporting like smaller breweries like that. So it's in a place like you would never suspect, like at the end of a road, like tucked back in there, but it's very like personable when you go there. Like you're talking to the owner that's serving you beer. So it's a cool environment, and I recommend it if you're ever in Raleigh.
First, let's go to the graphic here. Got to shout out a guy, Clay Wright, Carl Hungus. I saw Clay posted a picture of him and his old lady out at a real nice fancy restaurant for dinner this past weekend, and she let him wear a Panthers hat. So shout out to Miss Carl Hungus for that moment. But Clay says here, when you're asking, hey, what are we drinking? He says, I'm sure it'll be better than whatever Curtis is drinking. And I got to bring it up every time because I love it. And I think that this was in direct response to like the blueberry wines and things like that. You know, I think this was during that phase of Curtis's Panthers on Tap season. Me, I got a little bit of a bittersweet one, man. I saw it in the thing and I was like, well, I guess it works. This is from Petty Thieves Brewing Company here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a Keller beer lager, 5.3%. It's called Retired Cowboy because I feel like I am a retired cowboy, man. You know, I'm not going to put that cowboy hat on for a little while, y'all. But the beer is pretty delicious. Petty Thieves always does really cool work on their cans. It's really cool. But yeah, man, Retired Cowboy. We had a great run. Got on that saddle more times than I think we all thought. And now we'll ride off into the sunset together.
All right, let's get to the chat here. Lively bunch after a loss, honestly. Talon, keep pounding Panthers Nation. Stephen Belk, let's go, fellas. Soul Food and Guinness Night. Yeah, he posted a picture of you guys. Want to see in our
looks so good, dude.
I have not seen it yet, man. I love that.
Yeah, he's got some mac and cheese, beans. Was that fish in there or was that chicken? I couldn't tell. It was some breaded.
I think it was fish.
I think it was fish. Yeah, it looked like fish.
Collard greens. Yeah, looked so good.
Katie, I want to shout out Katie. We finally got to meet her in person. Yes. Her and her dad. It was good to see you. I know it was very brief right before the game, but it's always good to put a face to y'all in here in the chat she's been with us for a long time. So appreciate seeing you. Race and Jason, let's go, boys. Keep pounding. Appreciate you. Anthony, I'll get to Anthony's comment here because he said he saw us. We're still ahead of schedule as an organization. This is from Underground West. No one expected us to make the playoffs.
I ain't mad at that. I'm not mad at the sentiment. I push back a little bit, Wes, because I think that this is where about most of us expected us to be this year, at least on this show, right? We were all in that 7 to 10 win camp. So I think we're right on track, but I like the track we're on.
Anthony says, Anthony Pick 5401. Funny enough, I saw Curtis and Bryson walking back from the game. I was in my car trying to leave Mint Street, but I should have said hi. I want to know, Anthony, if you heard Bryson literally screaming the entire walk home how he hated Evero and JC Horn and everyone else on the defense and was laying into everyone.
Dude,
please
yeah.
In on that.
That's what happens when you hit the drum all tailgate.
Ricky's drinking the Adam Feeling Special. Yeah, he called it quits today. B Pays in here. Bryson, come over to Wendell and I'll buy you a beer at Falls Loco. Appreciate everything you
That's the deal, dude. I will hit you up.
Appreciate you, B Pays, man. Always in here, dude. Appreciate
he said yes. Did you really hear that? That's funny.
I was laying into that defense, man, and I said some things I regret, but I was drunk and mad. So,
hell yeah.
Well, let's start off with that. Ricky kind of talked about it. We'll start with some of the fun stuff before we get into the actual game. The tailgate. If you didn't go to the Roaring Right tailgate, that line was like 3 blocks long. It seemed like. By the end of it. Ridiculous. We were all standing in line. We didn't know if we get in. We were trying to buy beer off people. Ricky, if you saw on her Twitter account, shotgun the beer as we got closer, which was awesome.
Shout out those guys on that balcony. Yes. Appreciate y'all.
Yes. It was a free beer for a shotgun, and Ricky did not get booed. So salute to you for the good shotgun because
the other guy did, right?
Someone.
The guy that went behind me, he got booed. Yeah.
They did boo someone. I mean, man, that tailgate, shout out Roaring Riot, shout out Sheena, who helped put all that together. That was fantastic. All the legends that were there. Ricky, it was good to see you as well. That was awesome to get all three of us together because it's been a while. It's been a while since we've all gotten together once we were actually on this show together. Yep. So that was awesome. And your
I like it when they let me out of the house, man. It's real nice.
Yeah, Matt, it was good to see your buddy Matt too.
Yep.
Ricky brought a couple flasks. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but yeah, we were sharing the we were sharing the flasks around. Maybe that's why I got the sore throat today. I don't know. But hey, man,
the whiskey kills all that. That's your problem.
And that was good, by the way. That was some good whiskey.
I told you, man. That Johnny Drum, we were banging the drum.
Talon, I want to shout out Talon. Got to see him again. I want to talk about Cam at the game too, but I'll let you guys go here and just talk about the experience all around, the fan experience, Cam Newton's return, and just the game day experience in general.
I guess I'll hop in here. As far as the tailgate goes, I think it was the most fun I've ever had at a Roaring Riot tailgate. One, the beer was free. I mean, they were just like, if you want to tip, you can tip, but the beer was free. So I was pounding those beers before I got to the stadium to pay for those $20 beers there, even though I did a couple times. Two, Curtis, you mentioned it. All of us were together. And then both the Matts, our friend Matt we met in Kansas City, and then Ricky's neighbor Matt, who I've met a couple times, an awesome dude. One of the funniest dudes I think I've ever met. I'm not going to tell the story he told, but I was literally almost crying from a story he was telling. I just like the environment, dude. Like everybody being there in support of the legends that showed up to that tailgate. They had Thomas Davis, Luke Kuechly, Cam Newton, Jonathan Stewart. Like, talk about nostalgia. Talk about like everybody is here to support this team. On that day. And I think the legends returning brought out people that usually don't come out anyways. So it just was an added positive, for that team on Saturday this past weekend. So the tailgate was amazing. I thought the Roaring Riot did a great job. We all had our worries about, hey, are we all going to fit? Like, is this going to work? And we got in there and I felt like it was great. Like I wasn't crowded. I wasn't waiting in long lines for beer or anything. Like the Roaring Riot killed it. They really did, and they deserve their credit for that. And we both saw Zach Luttrell at the tailgate. Curtis and I did, and we both were like, "Dude, great job, man! Like this was awesome." I even ate the food, and I was good. So, chicken sandwich, man, chicken sandwich. I was starving. So, tailgate was great. As far as the environment in Bank of America, the best environment I have been in, bar none, in any Panthers game. Very few empty seats, like 95%, might be even higher Panthers fans to Rams fans ratio. Loud. I mean, I was pretty intoxicated, but I remember most of the game and just the excitement that fans felt. I'm not going to get into what exactly happened in the game, but especially in that second half, I mean, the place was literally rocking. Like it was crazy. We were all excited to cheer on a team that was, giving their best effort on the field. And I loved it to see that, except up until the very end, unfortunately. I think just a day, like I said at the beginning, a day I'm never going to forget, man. So many memories from just one day. And I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful that this team had given us one more game of meaningful football, the most meaningful football that's been played in the Carolinas in 10 years. And they didn't embarrass me, and that was the biggest thing, man. They came out and played their hearts out, and I respect that, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, I won't say too much about the tailgate because you guys just crushed that. Shout out to Zach and Josh and all of the volunteers, man, the people that run that beer line, the people that set up the tents, the people that set up the tables. I mean, everyone that does everything for that organization, man, that fan club is fantastic. So kudos to them. Cam Newton being there, Cam Newton at the stadium, getting to see him pound the drum on the TV. So that was the thing. I didn't go to the game. I went with you guys to the tailgate, and I get back home so that I could watch the game with my son. His very first playoff game, wanted to do that. So I had a different experience, right? Because I was watching at home and you guys were in the stadium. In the stadium, even watching it from home, man, was just electric. It was phenomenal. Like you could literally hear those surges at the stadium where you could almost feel seats shaking from the sound of the game. The big thing for me is what you said, Bryson, 95% Panthers and not a bunch of Rams. And I know the Rams aren't necessarily like this big traveling team, but in Panther Stadium, in Bank of America Stadium, for the most part, when you have a big game, you're outnumbered damn near as a Panthers fan. So seeing that, like, just broad support across that entire stadium, and Bank of America Stadium is a huge stadium, guys. Like, it's not, this is what, the 6th largest capacity of any stadium in the NFL. So to fill that place with Panthers fans says a lot. This city will get behind a good team. I don't think that means they're fair weather. I just think it means that they're craving, they're dying for success. This was the taste of it. This was the standard, as Canales talked about later. We'll talk about that, but this is the standard. And if this is what we can expect, I hope everyone tries their best to get out to a Carolina Panthers game, because that was a once-in-a-lifetime feeling. And if we can make that 5, 6, 7 times a year, man, sign me up. Like, sign me up right away. As for the watching the game here at home with that stuff, outside of the awful ending, right, and the devastation there, I couldn't have asked for a better game. Bryson said it made him proud. They didn't, disappoint or embarrass him. It was the exact opposite from embarrassment, man. Like, I think this is the kind of game you hang your hat on and you build from. There's no such thing as a winning loss. It's still a loss, and it still felt empty as hell the next day to not have football on the horizon. But it's not one of those losses where I look at it and I'm like, man, like, we failed. We failed utterly. No, we ran into a very good team that gave us their best. We gave them our best, and we came up short at the end. That's sports, but hell of a football game. I loved it. I would only change the outcome, but everything else, I'd go the exact same way as it played out.
Yeah, talking about the game quickly, or I mean the experience at the game quickly. Hats off to the Panthers organization from start to finish, from the national anthem to Cam coming out to the half game laser show to the fourth quarter with Steve Smith, Jake Delhomme, Wesley Walls, and Muhsin Muhammad coming out of the tunnel.
That was crazy.
The fourth quarter. That was the most electric. I thought it was more electric than Cam coming out. I mean, It was crazy because it happened just after Bryce Young hit Coker for like a 40-yard gain right as the third quarter ended. That when they came out, the whole stadium was black, and those guys 4 came out. Fucking chills, man. I will never forget that moment. It was the best game day experience that I've ever been to, and I have been to Packer playoff games against the Giants back in the day when it was Eli Manning on his Super Bowl run, and it was more electric than that. I mean, to fill that stadium, and for all the shit Panthers fans have gotten over the years, and they sell their tickets and just want to make money, that was not the case. When you got a football team you're proud of, and you got legends coming back and everything around it, all the hoopla around it, Panthers fans showed out. So hats off to everyone who packed that stadium. It was black and blue everywhere. So, man, it was a special one. I just wish they would have pulled off the victory there. Let's get into that. So everyone knows the big conversation after the game. The Panthers and that last defensive drive against the Rams that won the game for the Rams. And I want to start there, and Ricky, we'll start with you. And everyone's been, the conversation, was Carolina too soft? Where they some say they weren't soft, and some say, there's a whole conversation. Players have defended the play calls. What were your thoughts on that defensive series against the Rams in that game-winning drive?
I think it's just really tough to call it soft when it's what they play. They were in cover 3 for the majority of that final drive. And I do understand and agree with some of the commentary around maybe you don't have to play that far off, but I mean, that's the depth in cover 3. That's what they play. That is their principles of that defense. Can you go man? Sure, you can. Stafford is a smart quarterback. He'll try to execute against that as well. I mean, it was a good drive for the Rams. The final play to Colby Parkinson, I'm not sure there's much better that Trayvon Merrick can do in that instance. Like, I thought that he played that pretty well. Anyone that thinks that he should have been a little bit deeper on that, I mean, dude, he was on it. He was where he needed to be, and he made Stafford put that pass at the only place that his guy could have caught it and nobody else. I mean, that's one of those where you get beat with a better play. Do I wish that J.C. Horn and Mike Jack had been playing closer to the receivers and not giving up some of those underneath throws? Maybe. But was it J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson's fault that the linebackers didn't get to depth on some of those, weak hooks in a cover 3? That's what you're talking about, right? On the other side of the nickel. I don't know, man. Like, that's execution for me. It's not necessarily the play itself. And I got a lot of flack for this when I talked about it right after the game. And look, emotions were high after the game. Everyone was talking everything, right? Like, we just lost the playoff game for the first time after feeling like we had it won. So the emotions were everywhere. But you can't tell me that Evero is coaching the linebackers to be shallow like that, or the linebackers just aren't getting to their spots in time. Maybe it's an athletic inability to do that on their own. Maybe it's the processing that takes too long. Shouldn't be processing in zone. You're getting to depth. So, yeah, I don't think that it was soft, man. I just think that it's the execution, and I think we got beat, personally.
All right, Bryson, because I know you disagree with this, so fire away.
After the game, I mean, they kind of touched on it, dude. I was hot. I was hot with the defense. I was hot that – I mean, I was mad J.C. Horn was out and he was injured, and I was, like, holding that against him. Like, I was in a bad spot, all right, mentally for a while after the game. But I think ultimately I tend to agree with the sentiment, Ricky, is, like, the Panthers are who they are, and they've been doing that all year, right? Would I have liked them to all year be more aggressive on defense and play closer? Yeah, like I don't agree with that type of philosophy on defense, but the Carolina Panthers are the Carolina Panthers, and they stayed true to who they were on that final drive. I agree. I think Trayvon Merrick was there. Like, he was where he needed to be. Matt Stafford was just better. There's no defense for a perfect pass. There's not. I mean, and that's what it was. So unfortunately, we didn't come away with a stop there. But I felt like, and I might be mistaken, but I thought Evero blitzed Roseboom on that final drive a couple of times.
He did.
And it just didn't get home.
Yeah, and you can blitz from cover 3, and that's what I was trying to say earlier about the cover 3 thing, is that, like, they'll run their fire zone in cover 3, right? Like, that's their blitz call that they run a lot out of cover 3. And they ran it. They ran their blitzing. It just wasn't getting home. So it's like the only thing you could ask for was man or whatever. But the point of this bend, don't break defense is we were up by 4 points, right? Their whole idea there was don't give up the touchdown. Like, a field goal doesn't beat us. Unfortunately, Stafford made a perfect play from the perfect spot on the field, and they beat us. But, I mean, sorry, and I didn't mean to, like, interject on your time, but you're right. No, they blitzed, and they did everything that they were trying to do. It was the final play that crushed them, man.
Yeah, and unfortunate result in that game. But, after sleeping on it and sobering up and looking back at everything, so many people across national media, even some people in Carolina, like, this was going to be a blowout. Like, the Panthers didn't stand a chance. Nobody cared about the first win against this team that the Panthers had. But they came out and they damn near won that game. And they played really good football, especially in that second half, with a non-existent run game. Bryce Young, I'm getting a little ahead, so I'll stop.
Yeah,
but,
stop it.
But they played good football, and unfortunately, on that final drive, like in my personal philosophy, would I like my defenders to play closer to the ball and press and all that? Yeah, I would. But again, it's the Carolina Panthers, and they are who they are, and this is the style of defense that Dave Canales likes, and they're going to be running for years to come. So it is what it is. I felt like they were there to make the play. The play was to be had for that defense to get stops, but it just didn't happen. And it is what it is at this point.
I will start my answer with saying I think J.C. Horn being hurt really impacted what they could do in that final drive defensively.
Yeah, and I was talking like JC was on there. That's my fault.
And I guess my point is if J.C. Horn was out there, I thought there was a couple times in that game they did play a little bit more up close to the wide receiver. And I don't know if it was man on man or what, but I think if J.C. Horn was in there, if they weren't calling that, I honestly think he would have bitched about it because J.C. Horn has done that before we've seen it before where he's wanted to line up against certain guys at the end of games. I think if that would have kept happening, because it literally was very glaring that all they were doing is playing back the zone. Christian Roseboom looked lost as hell in his little zone. I seen a couple plays back where they were literally just waiting for the zone to open up wherever he wasn't getting deep enough or he was in the wrong. It looked like a mess on his end, at least from the way I was reading it. Maybe Ricky could talk about that a little bit more, but I didn't think he was getting deep enough in any of his areas. And that's, I think, was what Stafford and Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua were exploiting, getting to at least the red zone. And then we all saw the Parkinson play, which was a phenomenal play by him. But getting that close that early, it just felt like they needed to change something up. I thought, and I've seen this before, I thought Dave should have taken a timeout at some point during that series because the defense looked tired. Their pass rush was not getting there at all. They were non-existent. And I think they needed a little regrouping. And Dave, held the timeouts close to his chest to try to save it. And I think that kind of killed them a little bit too. So I think it was a culmination of things. I do think it was too soft. I get it that they play the zone. But in that situation, when shit's not working, you got to switch it up. They were clearly, everyone that was watching that game just saw the Rams just march down the field with very little pushback at all from that defense. So was not satisfied. I do think the execution sucked. You guys talked about the blitzes. Carolina, they've tried to send and try to get creative with blitzes. I don't think the players execute it well enough. I don't know how many times in this game I saw the players come up early to the line and Stafford audible out and whoop their ass on it. A couple of times he did that in the game where he'd audible because he saw a guy coming down to the line. They'd back off, he'd audible, and then you'd see those couple guys come blitz, and they had it covered up. So I think they got to do a better disguising because they clearly haven't been able to get pressure. But that whole sequencing sucked because I tweeted out I thought Bryce Young and Dave Canales did enough in this game to win the football game, and they got screwed on it. So any rebuttals or anything you guys wanted to talk about? Let's see here.
No, I love what you said though about the timeout. From the defensive perspective, I was literally at home saying the same thing. I was like, I know why you're trying to hold on to those timeouts. I understand that they're a valuable resource for getting the ball back, but if you get the ball back and you're losing, then you're going to need those. But if you get the ball back and you're winning, it don't matter if you got them or not. So use those timeouts and try to find a way to get that ball back with still having that lead. I think that when you feel that's, again, what we talk about with Canales sometimes, and we talk about it more on the offensive side, right? But from a defensive side, when you're the head coach you're still the one that's going to call those timeouts. That feel for the game and like kind of just knowing the way that like, all right, look, I'm watching this on the field unfold. That's not confidence inspiring. Whatever is happening is not working. They are getting it past our guys. They're getting it behind our guys. Our guys are late on getting to the pressure. We have to figure something out. We got to call a timeout and say, yeah, I mean, they've got to look at it though and talk to each other on the sideline. Because you know what? How valuable could a conversation could have been with Evero and maybe the linebackers or maybe Mike Jack and say, hey, Mike, you've been having one of the best games of any cornerback in the NFL this season. Not just a Panther player. I'm talking about one of the best games from a cornerback. Are you seeing anything that we are doing wrong in this situation? Like, you're on the field. That collaborative effort, I want that, right? Like I want to have that. And I think that timeout might have allowed some of that, or might have at least given the linebackers time to catch their breath because they were clearly gassed and not getting to where they needed to get. The defensive front wasn't getting any pressure. It hasn't got much pressure all season. We talk about that. Trayvon Merrick being your best pass rusher is a big-time problem. So I think that I agree with you, Curtis. That was a terrific point to bring up, that would have been a really wise thing, in my opinion, was to use the timeout there.
And if you guys are already looking at mock drafts, there's two things we talked about in this last game that were pivotal. Non-existent pass rush and a weak linebacking group. So take those two little needs and start studying those guys in the draft and free agency, because Carolina needs some, and it's no damn secret at all. All right, let's talk about Jalen Coker for a second, because he shined on the national stage, and it's clear he's the number 2 wide receiver. I don't know why it took them this long to figure that out, because he might have been proved pivotal in some of these other games. And I feel like there has been a shift maybe since like Tampa Bay, where he was like solely in those number 2. That's when it was brought up, at least in some of the press conferences to Dave, was in that last Tampa Bay game. But Jalen Coker, undrafted guy, Leggett, first-round pick, and he is clearly, even injured this year, has produced well above what Leggett has. And I know I hate even to do that comparison, but that's the reality we're in. But hats off to him, man. I mean, he is a special player. I saw someone the other day say Jordy Nelson as a comp. I think it's an interesting one. Ricky might have something to say about that, but I mean, man, Carolina, y'all got lucky because you cut this guy. Let's not forget you cut this guy, and somehow found a way to get him back. But man, he is a special talent.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say about the comp, because I don't think that it's a terrible comp. For Jordy Nelson, one of his main things, he was a ball winner. He was a good route runner. Didn't necessarily have the burner speed, but was deceptively fast, right? Fun thing that you always say about a wide receiver like Jordy Nelson, deceptively fast. But Jalen Coker, look, man, this guy just knows how to play ball, and this guy catches everything thrown his way. And he's shown you the gambit of catches that he can make too, right? He's shown the one hand over the shoulder Willie Mays style catch. He's shown you the reaching across his body. He did it in this game on that sideline catch, reaching across his body against his momentum that was pulling him away from that sideline, and he still plucks it out of the air. His hands are literal mice traps for footballs. Like, they get anywhere near it and they just close on it and they get you. They're not going to let go of it. I think that he had one of the best games that I could have imagined for a wide receiver for Carolina, not named Tetairoa McMillan. And you said that he's the clear number 2 on this team. Look, man, Tetairoa McMillan is going to get the offense funneled through him. He's the focal point. But it's not going to shock me if their production ends up being way closer next season than what people are expecting right now. Because here's the thing, dude. Just because the offense starts with Tetairoa McMillan doesn't mean you don't need a counterpunch from him, right? And all season, I think that they have been searching and dying to find that counterpunch. Jalen Coker missing the first 6 weeks because of his injury was devastating for the flow and rhythm of this offense. Even when they weren't playing well, they were still showing competency from more than just, hey, you got to throw it to T-Mac. He's the only guy that can catch the ball, right? And that's not a shot to somebody, but it is a shot because the other people weren't playing good receiver for this team, and the tight ends didn't play well for this team. Jalen Coker is legitimate. I think that he should have a featured prominent role going forward. I think that they should. Katie says it. Where did she say? Right. She said Coker needs to get signed long-term right now. I bet you they're discussing it. Do they want to do that right now? They've got the restricted free agency on them. They have exclusive rights to talk with him and negotiate with him. I don't think he's going anywhere. That guy has the mentality. I also think that he's a pretty solid blocker on some of the insert motion stuff that Carolina runs, which is a pivotal part of him as well. That's his versatility and his alignment usage, where he can line up outside. He's been great on these verticals. He's got the best outside release of anybody on this team. His outside release is by far my favorite of anybody on this team. He can get behind and stack his defender in a way that no one else is proving to do on a consistent basis. That is route running. It's quick feet. It's studying the game. It's knowing your body. And he is good at it, man. And the pacing and tempo that he runs his routes with are phenomenal. The only thing that we can talk about in this game, the stopped route on the interception for Bryce Young, some sort of miscommunication, something happened there, but it's something that can't happen. You don't want to stop that kind of route, a crosser over the middle. That's a cardinal sin type of deal. And then the one over the shoulder on third down, I get it. That was a slimmest of margins. If he'd have made it, we'd have been talking about it as one of the greatest catches all season. But if he'd have made it, it was a game changer too, man. And it was just so damn close. The timing, though, that Bryce Young and Jalen Coker have, I think is the best on the team. Even better than Teteroa McMillan and Bryce Young. Their familiarity, their comfort level with each other. Because Bryce is an anticipatory thrower. So a lot of these throws are getting fired off. They're getting sent off before Jalen Coker is even remotely at the end of his route, right? And at his destination.
Go-ahead touchdown. He threw that before Coker was.
Coker was not even all the way through that.
On another planet.
That's right.
It was ridiculous.
And we've seen that though a lot. And it's because I think that they've got their timing down. And they also work a lot together in the offseason. So what do you want to see from these players going forward, right? On this offense, you want to see the offense take the next step? Look, I know they got lives. I'm not trying to tell everyone to be locked up on a field and play football 23 hours a day. But I am saying that if you want it that bad and you want to take the next step, it's time to take the next step of the preparation too. Lock in with your quarterback, man. Get this timing and this comfortability correct, because Bryce Young is making the throws when he's got that rapport with people. Make that rapport with your quarterback, dude, and do your offense a favor. Get out there and keep building on this momentum. Terrific game for Jalen Coker.
Before he goes, I just want to real quick on the last point you just said. Did you see what Bryce Young said to Puka Nacua after the game?
Oh, yeah.
Like, hey, you're going to be back in Cali. And Bryce is like, no, I'm going to be sticking around here a little bit.
Down here.
I'd love to hear that shit. So that's great. Bryson, go ahead.
Yeah, that was awesome. Dan Morgan saved his ass with getting Jalen Coker in undrafted free agency and drafting Xavier Legette in the first round. I think that's not talked about enough. Xavier Legette, you both touched on it. Been a disappointment. There's no way around it. He's been a disappointment to this point in his career. And Coker has really stepped up and taken over that role as the number 2 receiver. I think they were hoping at the time when they drafted him that Xavier Legette was going to be the number 1 receiver. So, unfortunately, it hasn't happened at this point. Maybe it does in the future, but we're not there yet. So Coker is fantastic. I stand with the 0 drop gang for Jalen Coker. I still believe he has 0 drops. I don't count that bullshit drop they gave him 2 years ago in the game that didn't matter. 0 drops. I mean, I love the mousetrap analogy that you used, Ricky, for his hands. Anytime the ball's thrown his way, it's a good pass. I have all the confidence in the world that he's catching it. He's coming down with it. It doesn't matter what the corner's doing. He's coming down with it. So just a fantastic all-around player. I agree. I think his numbers and T-Mac's numbers could look very similar next year. And that's not a knock to T-Mac. That's just the way this offense is going to run. A lot of defenses are going to key in on T-Mac. And Coker's going to be getting that number 2 corner. Coker's going to be working that number 2 corner, because I don't think there's very many number 2 corners that can guard him one-on-one in the NFL. That's how good Jalen Coker is right now. So I think their numbers could look very similar. I know we're talking next season. If they're both healthy and play, a full season, there's still some room to grow in this offense in regards to adding more wide receivers to this room. I think it could use some speed, specifically just a true burner deep threat. I think that would open up things even more for Coker and T-Mac. Yeah, I love me some Alex Pierce. I don't know how Ricky feels about him, but I love me some Alex Pierce. And I think he's going to garner a little too much money for Carolina's liking on the open market, because it's not a great free agent class for wide receivers. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about Jalen Coker. I'm just happy he's a Carolina Panther. They do need to sign him long term. There is absolutely no downside to that. He has shown to be a fantastic NFL wide receiver.
All right, let's go to an injury that honestly I think disrupts their offseason greatly, which really pisses me off, if I'm going to be honest with you, because I was thinking maybe Carolina might draft a defensive guy in the first round. They still might, but I feel like this impacts that a lot, and that's the Ike Ekwonu ruptured patella. How do you say that? Someone help me out here. Patellar tendon. 6 to 12 month recovery. We're talking could have missed the start of the season, could have missed majority of the season. It's kind of all over the place. I've seen some guys come back earlier than on that shorter end of that timeline. But then I've seen some things where guys don't fully ever recover from this injury. Like they are just not the same, and especially for an offensive lineman. So I want to touch on that for a second because Icky, obviously, he was kind of working through trying to get some sort of contract with Carolina. Obviously, this is going to impact that. And now Carolina has a lot of question marks on already, they've spent a lot of money in this offensive line room. You don't have a center yet. I know there's hope to get Cade Mays probably signed long-term. And now you have your left tackle who could be starting the season, not ready to go. So, Bryson, we'll start with you on this. Thoughts on obviously the injury, and then we can kind of project a little bit and talk about the offseason a little bit here of what do you think how do they address this in the offseason?
Yeah, extremely unfortunate that this occurred in the last game of the year. I think when I saw like yesterday or maybe the day prior, it's like he hadn't even had surgery yet on the injury. He may have by now. I haven't seen any updates on that, but just unfortunate. The time frame you mentioned it, Curtis. Really like uncertain. Could be 6 months. Could be a year. And then if you look at the numbers, I forgot who posted it on Twitter. Forgive me for not remembering, but the numbers for players that return, like their rate of like success at that position, like returning from this injury, the ruptured patellar, it's hard to come back the same player from this injury. And I thought that, yeah, my bad, Katie, not 6 years. Hopefully that does not occur 6 years. But yeah, I think this really does change things in the offseason for Carolina because you're talking about a left tackle that you were in, contract negotiations with or going to extend him long-term to be that left tackle at the position. And unfortunately, this injury occurs, and now you need someone to fill in for him. At least until he comes back healthy. But in worst case scenario, fill in for him long term. And they're going to have to address that. Left tackle is one of the most important positions on the team. And I thought Ekwonu was playing really good football prior to getting injured late in the season and really showing, coming into his own as a consistent player at that position. And this is just a big setback for this team. You have question marks at left tackle, at center, and then let's not forget that Taylor Moton is going into another year aging at right tackle. And there were question marks going into this year with Taylor Moton at right tackle. So very uncertain around this pretty much, 3 of 5 positions on the offensive line. And it's tough, man. They got their work cut out for them. We know we have the guards figured out, 2 really good players there. I would love to bring Cade Mays back. I think that he's a good center, and I don't imagine he's going to be super expensive at that position. But the tackles, I think, are the 2 biggest question marks on that offensive line going into this year.
The Ike Ekwonu injury, and first of all, welcome back, Curtis. Curtis got out of that submarine that he was doing the first.
Let's go.
Show. He docked, and he's back here on land with all of us. Good to have you back, buddy. Yeah, look, here's the deal with the Icky thing, man. That's a tough injury. That's a really, really tough injury. And for a bigger guy who, is going to have more weight on him, and puts a lot of stress on that lower body, it is also one where you worry about that ever recovering and getting back to the level of play. So let's talk about that for a quick second, right? Return to that level of play. This, as Bryson was just talking about, was a huge year for Ike Ekwonu. This was going into the conversation about extensions. We just saw Charles Cross, a guy who was drafted in his same class by the Seattle Seahawks. He got his extension, big money extension. Charles Cross is probably considered to be a better left tackle than Ike Ekwonu. I think that would be the consensus opinion on those 2 players. If you are asking me, will Ike be able to return to this level of play? And is that good enough for the extension? That makes me too nervous to give a full answer, to be completely honest. I don't think there is any way that a front office can even picture that right now. And, the recovery times from 6 months to 12 months, I would be very surprised if Icky was on the 6-month side of that recovery timetable. Josh Simmons, rookie offensive tackle out of Ohio State, he suffered a patellar tendon rupture in October of his final year at school last season, right, in 2024. Coming into 2025, he recovered and he started week 1 for the Arizona Cardinals. And he's played pretty well. He's been pretty good for him. Has he reached the level that he played at? I would comfortably say yes. He's also younger. I don't know what kind of offseason he had. I don't know what his body has reacted to in injuries prior. The good thing for Icky, I guess, is that he's been a relatively healthy player throughout his career. I don't think that he's ever had reports of having lower body issues like on a consistent basis, right? Like on a habitual basis. I think that that's important. That is good. Icky's in pretty good shape for a guy his size. He's not one of those, you know what I mean? There's some offensive linemen when you look at him, it's like, man, that's a mountain. It's going to be tough to move him. Icky moves well. Icky's a big dude, but he's proportional in his weight. So I think that that's a pretty good thing for him. I just don't know how you can look at this and say, we're going to be okay, right? Like, you can't. So going forward, I think that left tackle has to be a real point of emphasis. Now, whether that is a quote-unquote bridge candidate, good luck finding a just valuable starter who's willing to come here on a 1 year, because the NFL is starving for offensive linemen. So if you think there's one of those guys just laying around that we can call up and be like, hey, we'll give you $8 million, just come play starter for a year at left tackle on the blind side and protect Bryce Young. And by the way, what is going to be his most pivotal season of his career, talking contract extension and everything else. They've got to pay attention to what's happening here. Their window is right now, right? I'm not saying this is their championship window and then they have 1 or 2 years, but their window for continuing success is right now. That includes getting protection for Bryce Young and seeing this offense develop. You're evaluating your coach, you're evaluating your receivers, and you're evaluating your quarterback, and you're going to be evaluating Jonathan Brooks, who's supposed to be coming back. You got to have an offensive line that can open up holes for that running back that you allocated a second-round pick for. I think that you're going to see a high-round draft pick allocated to the offensive line in this draft. I also am going to go ahead and throw this out there. I won't be surprised, and I actually anticipated seeing 2 offensive linemen drafted in this NFL draft for the Carolina Panthers, whether that's a interior offensive lineman like a true center, or whether it's a utility guy like a Brian Parker II out of Duke, a guy that's very reminiscent of a Brady Christensen type of player that could play all 5, white key, black keys on the piano. He can go all the way down that musical bitch and play songs. That's what he can do. Or you look at it and you say, hey, Caleb Lomu, right? The impressive young tackle out of Utah, who might end up being my number 1 offensive tackle. I'm not sure yet. I haven't solidified that. But he's fallen out of favor with some people because his run blocking isn't tremendous. That dude is a clean pass blocker, man. Terrific hands, good feet, and he's young, and he's going to fill out a lot of length. Monroe Freeling, kid out of Georgia. There are options that are going to come up in this draft. And I think that when you look at the rest of this draft to say there's not elite talent in some of these other positions, you might be taking like a little bit of a gamble. They might side on the side of some of these offensive linemen and say, look, let's go ahead and let's bolster this line. If this guy turns out to be better than Icky, we sign Icky to like a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal, and maybe don't give him the long-term extension that he wants. We still offer him a nice contract. Maybe he's your contingency plan at right tackle for Taylor Moton. There's a lot of different ways you can go about this, but his injury 100% has to be a point of emphasis, and you cannot plan on him being back and being even near 100% at the start of the season, maybe not even at all next season.
And I honestly think this just speeds up what they wanted to do with Taylor Moton eventually and replace him. And I saw someone in the chat here, and I know this isn't an ideal situation, but do you draft a young guy, put him in Icky's spot, and then after this season he goes over, or he goes over and shifts to right tackle, or Icky goes over and shifts to right tackle, and you solve both of those sides of the ball on the offensive line? That could be an option. I do think, and I was trying to find this tweet because I know this came out after the draft, and I don't know who it was. Some national reporter that said it. Carolina was looking at Membo in this, like if he would have fell to Carolina in this previous draft, they would have thought long and hard to go and pick him over Tedero McMillan. So I think clearly Carolina has had a liking for some really talented guys if they would have fell. So I think that kind of just is like some tea leaves, and they're going to go young at this position. Like Ricky said, there ain't left tackles just sitting on the street ready to come in and play.
Well,
but also it ain't going to be cheap to go and get those guys.
Right.
So,
and did you hear what Dan was saying about kind of correcting the balance of the cap distribution for the offensive line because of how much they have allocated right now to that offensive line, and saying even if it wasn't about Aquanu's injury, right? Even before that injury, they knew they had to get cheaper in that position group. Like, they cannot continue to have that much of their cap space tied up on one position unit. And the sustainability for that unit comes with young players that you develop. So, yeah, they might end up – I know a lot of people I see in the chat, like Francisco Maga out of University of Miami. We're going to see him play on Monday in the national championship. He's terrific. I think that he is a pure right tackle, maybe even better as a guard. That would be my only thing that I would be a little bit worried about when you ask some of these guys to just change sides. And I know that he's played left at times, much better at right. And when you ask them to change sides, man, it is more difficult than people anticipate it being. That's not something that's super easy, in my opinion. But I do like that. And we have a super chat in here if you want to get to it.
Yeah, hold on. I just want to continue this conversation real quick and pose this to you guys. Let's say they go in the draft and get someone not the first round. Are you comfortable going into this season with either Yosh, if they re-sign him, or Brady, who is coming off of an Achilles injury, to protect Bryce Young's blind side?
No.
No, I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. I've seen that. We saw the fake Twitter account that someone posted. I think it was like, I'm not going to give attention to it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to pose that because I think that would be asinine. It'd be crazy.
We've seen Yash play left tackle, and each time this season he gave up 8 pressures in both games. Do I want to see that for 17 games? While trying to figure out if we can make it back to the playoffs? No, not particularly. And that's not even a dig on Yash, because I think that he's got value as a swing tackle or whatever, fill-in spot, guy that can play 20 reps if someone gets hurt, or can start over on the right side. I think he's much better on the right side. But no, man, as a starting left tackle, hell no, I can't do it. And by the way, we might have our very first ejection from this show coming soon. Keaton here says, I'm sure we could re-sign Cam Irving. Hey, Keaton, man, I'm just going to let you know I absolutely love the commentary. We're going to have to review this on and check in with New York, because this might be the double unsportsmanlike, first of all, for saying Cam Irving, and then actually insinuating that the Carolina Panthers should bring him back. If you say Michael Jordan's name in this chat and you're not talking about the guy that played for Chapel Hill, we're going to have a big issue, Keaton. Alaska or not, I'm coming for you, pal.
We got someone read this. We got Carter with a super chat.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Carter, one of our original listeners here. This is my favorite season of Carolina Panthers football. Started in 2015, no real connection with them. So until Carolina win the Super Bowl, this is it. Cheers to you, Carter.
Cheers. That's
Cheers,
right,
Carter.
Bryson, I felt like you had more that you were going to say there. Why don't you finish it up? Take it home, man.
Yeah, man. I was just going to say I'm happy that they finally brought him a winning season. He's talked to me. He's DM'd me a couple times and let me know, like, he's younger and he has not had a winning season that he remembers, and this is the first one that is on record for him. So I think I'm happy for him that he got this, but hopefully there's more to come for that.
I'm not done with this O-lineman conversation. Just one more thing on this, and this is for both y'all. Gun to your head. You're sitting at 19 and you have a offensive lineman and, let's say, an edge rusher, a linebacker, both very equal in their talent. Who are you picking right now? This can change Gun to your head, what are you going with?
I don't work that way. What happened in free agency?
Yeah, I need to know what happened.
What happened in free agency, and who's telling me that it's the same talent level? Like, I don't work that way. I will tell you this: in this draft class, the way that I look at it, okay, outside of one or two edge players, I think there's a lot of question marks about the edges and their ceilings and what they could be. All of them are going to have some things that are going to make you pause. Cassius Howell is ultra dynamic, like wild get off, an array of pass rush moves, and he's probably going to measure in with sub 32-inch arms. That is going to scare a lot of teams off. And the Carolina Panthers, if you didn't look at the Carolina draft guide last year, we laid this out with the historical preferences. They got a thing for like 33 and a half or over as far as arm length. I think it was 33 3/4 is their average that they have taken with all of their GM and defensive players. All of that is their preference. I think it's going to be interesting to see because this might be the kind of draft where they got to get a little out of their comfort zone. But the offensive line, they've got some guys that have a lot of upside. And Monroe Freeling, I think, is going to be a guy that you're really going to get used to hearing that name. I really think that kid is going to climb. I think that when he declared, it was a huge seismic shift in that group because a lot of it was, hey, this guy might be better as a guard. This guy might be better on the right side. This kid is 6'7", 315 pounds with probably 35-inch arms, and he's terrific at moving, played in the SEC. He's going to rise, man. And that's a guy that could end up being a target for Carolina.
Can you say that name again? Because I had the spinning wheel of death on my end. So.
Monroe Freeling out of Georgia, left tackle.
Yeah. Bryson, did you answer that while I was frozen?
I mean, I agree with Ricky. I need to know what happens in free agency, but in my opinion,
but let's say like Dan typically does like let's just say Dan. You know, Dan likes to try to get all the positions covered so he can go best player available in the draft as best as he can. Like that's what we're gonna get.
I think Carolina makes a major splash in free agency for an edge rusher. So I'm gonna go offensive line there. Versus a linebacker, because I think they would wait for edge if they make a major splash of free agency. So I would go offensive line.
I do think that they're more likely to sign a experienced, proven commodity at edge and or linebacker of the two, because I think that those positions are such dire need that they're not going to go and throw a rookie into that position.
Yeah.
Because also you got to think, man, they're going to develop Nick and Princely. Like, this was their rookie season, dude. And these guys played pretty solid. I think that the offseason, that's going to be their focus on the edge. But if they can bring in a primetime pass rusher, I think that they're going to be willing to pay for that.
We got another super chat here we're going to hit real quick. So Tiger from Pennsylvania, $20. Hey-o, appreciate you.
Cheers,
Zach.
Cheers, man.
Great season overall. Cheers to that. 2026 season can't get here soon enough. Also already have my eyes set on linebacker Josiah Trotter from Missouri and Eagles linebacker Nakobe Dean. Both would be ideal fits for the defense. Keep pounding. Hey, man. I will take any linebackers at this point. And I know Dave has – he was asked about both Lee Gadd and Trevin Wallace. What do you guys think? I think someone said like they didn't have that great of a year. Obviously, Wallace had the injury. And Dave said, these guys are young. We're going to continue to develop them.
Yeah.
We'll see about that.
There was something he said there that was crazy, though, Curtis. That was one of the standout moments for me in that presser is because he said, Trevin, I think he's only 22 years old. I mean, these guys are young. And, Xavier – and then he stopped himself because he was like, well, fuck, Xavier's like 26. Hold on a second. Let me think of something to say about Xavier.
I didn't pick up on that.
And he said, well, Xavier, it took until his senior year for him really to start putting it together. And it's like, that's the nice thing that you can say about him? That's the nice thing that you can sell about his development as well. It took him until he was 24 to be good in college. So it's probably going to take him until he's what, Dan? Until he's what? 30. 31? Like, are we back on that 7-year plan? And I'm not trying to kill on Xavier Legette, but this is the honest truth, man. They were ready to cut ties with Jonathan Mingo after a pretty quick audition here. And a lot of that came from awareness and just not being good at the position, not from being a hard worker, not from being a good guy. They love Jonathan Mingo. His personality is what sold Scott Fitterer. Remember? Didn't they say something about one of these guys came in and just had me laughing all day. He was hilarious. He told me jokes and stuff. He got a charismatic personality. That's what got him. His fucking personality. Well, up to this point, and I'm not trying to be mean, but Xavier Legette's personality is more wide known than his production on the football field. So, they're going to have to figure something out, man. And I'm sorry, you set me off on a completely different path there. But as far as the super chat from Zach, I'm sorry. I'm easily distracted, man. I'm like a golden retriever with squirrels. As far as what Zach said in the super chat with Josiah Trotter, first of all, that is Jeremiah Trotter's son, again. His second son that he will have going into the league because he had Junior already going in out of Clemson. Josiah Trotter, man, reminds me a lot of Nick Bolton. He's a thumper. He's a downhill guy. He's got some good athleticism. He's got some good weight to him. Coverage is going to be where you have questions about it. If you pair him with a guy like Nakobe Dean, sure, maybe that could work because Nakobe Dean, what I like about him too is his ability to rush the passer, use him as a blitzer. I like that. He's a smart kid. I think that that's a feasible path to pair a rookie with him.
And he's already been in the defense with
and also
Fangio.
Philly's got Jahad Campbell that is just waiting in the background to get into that position. So they're going to want to get him in there. They're not going to pay more money to that position. It makes sense that Nakobe Dean could be one of the targets. I thought he played well when he came back too this year. I thought Nakobe Dean was a pretty good ball player. So I think that's a feasible path. I don't know though that they're going to cut ties yet on Trevin, man. I don't know. That was Dan Morgan's pick. Dan Morgan, I think he liked Edgerrin Cooper. We know that.
Well, they better add someone in that fucking room because it ain't cutting it.
And linebackers are a tough transition into the NFL. That is a difficult position to play. And if you're not instinctual when you come in, it's tough to build instinct in the NFL. One thing about Josiah Trotter, he is a very instinctual player. So that's a good mark for that rookie, in my opinion.
All right, let's stick with the defense here. And let's talk about Ejiro Evero. So he's going to be returning as the DC. I think the most shocking thing was he was extended before this season. Extended after historically the worst defense in NFL history. Coming from an Ejiro Evero fan, I don't think I would have even done that. I think that's crazy. You suck ass at your job and then you get a pay raise? That's crazy to me. So I'm sure that shot.
Did he get a pay raise? Was it a raise?
Oh no, I'm just trying to. I'm Ricky. I suck at analogies. Give me a damn break. We all can't be a wizard like you. But I want to hear from you guys on this, because we all know how y'all felt about Ejiro Evero. What do you think of him getting an extension before the year? Kind of I think they said lined up with Dave Canales. And then thoughts on him returning for another season.
Man, I just have so many mixed emotions with this. I'm upset.
Is that what you were letting off on Mint Street, Bryson? Mixed emotions?
No, those weren't mixed. That was just bad.
Those were clear.
Yeah.
Those were clear emotions.
There was blood and guts everywhere.
Not clear. Yeah. There was some brown emotions in there from that bourbon. It wasn't all clear.
And then at Twin Peaks, it was some of the same stuff there. But
look at you dogs. You dirty, dirty dogs.
Yeah, man. Look, he came off not this past season, but the season before. Curtis mentioned it. Historically, the worst defense we've seen in the NFL in a long time. But the improvements that this defense made this season, I mean, if you want to hate them, be my guest. I can understand where you're coming from with that soft coverage. We talked about it earlier. But the improvements, it was there. And I think a lot of us coming into the year were like, man, if they could just be a top 27 unit from 32, we'd be happy. And they were much higher than that in a couple different areas. And I think Evero is a big part of that. I mean, when you talk about a scheme and the edge room might not be great, or there's some comments from Princely that's like, hey, I don't think we're ever going to have a good edge rusher. Not necessarily said those words, but kind of insinuated that in this scheme that he doesn't think that this style of defense is set up for a super effective edge rusher. I think the defense made improvements, man. I think moving on from him after this year would have raised some eyebrows for some people in that locker room, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Just because of, we saw the progress that was made. Like when he had talent on the field and Derek Brown and J.C. Horn and Trayvon Merrick, these guys, for the most part, the defense was keeping us in games week in and week out. And, there were some letdowns every now and then, but there were letdowns everywhere on this team every now and then. And I think overall the defense, if I look back over the entire season as a like totality at the end of the year right now, I would say the defense was impressive to me. I think forcing turnovers, improving stopping the run, getting pressure and getting sacks, that's a different aspect that wasn't very impressive. But I think overall the defense made improvements, man, and I understand keeping them. I think Dave loves Ejiro Evero. I think that's very clear. But I think he's loved in that locker room. I think his players like him. I think he's a very good leader, very well spoken. Like I think he's clear on what he wants. He had the secondary. I feel like the secondary played great all year. And we talked about Nick Scott. We talked about Mike Jackson, like literally looking like a fucking Hall of Fame corner this past weekend. Like Evero's got his faults for sure, and he's not perfect, but I think I get it. I understand why they're keeping him.
And
Ricky, can you touch on the Princely stuff? Someone had in the comments.
Yeah,
make sure we touch on that.
Yeah, because I think that's an important part of this. So Bryson nailed what I wanted to start with, and it's that this idea that this scheme cannot produce a pass rusher. This is the same scheme that they run in Philly in principle, right? Like of course there are variations. Of course there are differences, and of course there are different tendencies that these coordinators call with, right? That's the human element of all of this. The scheme is the same as they run in a lot of successful places. A lot of these coordinators, even Jesse Minter, right, for the Chargers, a lot of these coordinators that are hot right now, that are looked at as great defensive coordinators, outside of Mike Macdonald, because Mike Macdonald is just a sick, madman, scientist, lunatic that does whatever the hell he wants. He sees Leonard Williams and he's like, bet you he can play free safety. Watch this. Like, that's just his MO, right? But a lot of these other guys, man, they do a lot of the same things that Ejiro Evero does. Ejiro Evero doesn't necessarily have the variety in talent, in my opinion. When you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, what they have done intentionally is they add a guy like Nolan Smith, right? They have their pass rushers. They have the Sweats, right? They have, who's the other kid? They got Jalix Hunt that they drafted. These guys are particular rush backers. That is what they do. And they also have supreme talent on that defensive front in the interior, right? Big, strong pass rushers inside. They are able to do a lot of base formation, which lets them do a lot of different things on the back end, which they also happen to have elite talent on the back end. It is a well-stocked team over there in Philly. But then you go to a team like LA. This is the comparison that I like to do, right? They go and they drafted Josiah Stewart out of Michigan. Small guy, undersized, probably wouldn't have fit what Carolina's preferences are, but he has one role. He's got one role, and it's to rush the passer. And that's all they ask him to do. I think that's the intention when they drafted a guy like Princely Umanmielen, that they knew was not going to be able to be a 3-down back in his first year because of the limitations. But what they didn't anticipate was that he was going to struggle as much as he did at the beginning of this year in run support and with tackling. I think that's the honest to God truth of it. And when I see Princely's comments, this is what Curtis wanted to talk about, and him talking about the scheme and all this stuff, I don't think that was directed at the scheme not being able to produce pass rushers. I didn't get that from that, guys. I got that he didn't care to hear that we need to bring somebody in. That was it the scheme or was it the talent level? Did we need better talent to adjust to the scheme? I think literally what his gripe was like, hey, you're talking about me. You're talking about Nick. You're talking about Wadham. You're talking about Pat Jones. Those are his teammates and him. And I think what he's saying is we don't necessarily need more talent. I'm a rookie, for crying out loud. I need more time. I need more opportunity. And he's not wrong about that. From an explosive play standpoint, Princely Umanmielen was one of our standout players It's just from everything else, he wasn't doing a terrific job in his regular season rookie campaign. Give him some time, let him develop in the offseason. And the Rams, another reason why I like to bring that up is Jared Verse is what everyone loves, right? Everyone loves to talk about Jared Verse. Jared Verse was 24 years old as a rookie. When they brought him in, he was an older rookie. He was established. He was a power player that you're betting on being able to translate in the NFL from a pass rush standpoint, but he was also terrific against the run, and you knew what you were getting. That's what Nick Scorton is the prototype for. He's just 4 years younger. He is developing. If you go look at what Jared Verse looked like from a physical composition standpoint when he was 20 years old and 21, Nick Scorton's ahead of him. And I'm not trying to compare these guys directly, but when you talk about like having young guys that you're trying to develop into star players, let's just wait a second, man. We definitely need a premier edge rusher. I'm not trying to say we should stick with the guys that we have. I'm saying that Carolina needs to go a little bit outside of their comfort realm. And they need to look at a guy like Cassius Howell potentially, right? Like a Romello Height out of Texas Tech. Some of these smaller guys that are speed rushers that have a purpose, that's what this team lacks is juice and focus of getting after the passer. So maybe that's what I think. I don't have a problem with the scheme. As far as the extension for Evero, Bryson let it off with saying that it matches with Dave Canales. Is there any possibility, has anyone asked this, did Dave Canales have any part of this conversation? Did he have any preference? Because how many times have we heard Dave Canales say how much he loves this scheme and how much he trusts Ejiro Evero? Maybe when he came in, he says, hey, look, I don't want to have to worry about my staff for the next 3 seasons. I want my staff to be in place. I want to build continuity with my staff. If he gave his vouch for Ejiro Evero because he likes the scheme, then what? I mean, dude, we went from the literal historical worst team, and I get it that it's wild to give an extension there, but historically worst to middle of the pack, and the talent at certain areas is what shows up. It's not necessarily the scheme. It's the talent in certain areas for me. I don't have a problem with Evero. I like the scheme. I think that he needs more pieces.
I'm not going to touch on all what you all said. You all know where I lie with Evero. My biggest question is are you going to get anyone better to come here? Are you going to get anyone better to come to Carolina? That's my biggest question when people are quick to say, let's get rid of him. It's the same guy who's getting head coach interviews right now with the Raiders, and I think there's one other team in there, Atlanta maybe, the Falcons. So I'll leave it there. I don't want to dive too much into it. Let's ping pong back to the offense here and talk about Bryce Young. So Dan Morgan in his presser this week says they plan to pick up Bryce Young's 5th-year option. I know where all of us stand with Bryce Young. I think this is a no-brainer to pay a quarterback. I think it's going to be like $27 million when all is said and done for his contract to get a starter for that amount of money. You'd be foolish not to. And Bryce Young, what he did in that playoff game, if you have any questions about him as a quarterback, I mean, he showed out in that game. He when the lights shine bright, he showed out and proved why Carolina took him number 1. We all saw what CJ Stroud did a couple nights ago. And those guys are going to be compared their entire careers. And I'll tell you what, CJ Stroud better be lucky that he had that Texans defense behind him, because I don't think he comes out of that alive the way he played. So hats off to Bryce Young. You can take those pre-draft evaluations and shove them where the sun don't shine, because he showed out on Saturday. And, man, I'm happy he's our quarterback. I'll just put it that way. This is a no-brainer. I know they'll at some point probably talk contract extension. They might be at some point trying to feel that out. I know that was asked of Dan, and he said, he'll be talking with Brandt, and there's still conversations about that. But, yeah, you got to pick this up. You're getting a starting quarterback, I think, on the cheap. So I'll take it.
Couldn't agree more, Curtis. I think this was, like you say, a no-brainer. I think I tweeted water's wet when they picked it up. Like, Bryce played, just a completely unbiased take. This season was inconsistent, I think, but overall we saw growth from Bryce Young in this year, especially in the playoff game. I thought no run game whatsoever. The offensive line played okay, I guess. And Bryce just made plays, man. He was electric from that run in the first half to score, to the pass to Jalen Coker in the end zone where you guys touched on it earlier. He threw it before Coker had even made his break and gotten through all the traffic. Like, that's the stuff you see from Bryce game in and game out. He has to clean up some of the interceptions that we saw throughout the year, and I think he will. I think it's clear that Carolina has a franchise quarterback in Bryce Young. I would be talking contract extension now with him past the 5th year. Like, I think I'm that confident in Bryce going forward. I understand, 5th year option, saving some money. I get that aspect of it, but for at least this upcoming year. But I think Bryce is he's gotten better every single season. Every single season he's been in the NFL, he's gotten better. No one can argue that. No one can sit here and tell me any different. And I think that's exactly what you would hope for a rookie quarterback coming into the NFL. Did it start at the level we hoped that it started at with Bryce Young? No. But after that benching last year, I mean, he has been electric for the most part. And there's been games here and there where you would want a little bit more from him. But I think overall, I think it's clear he is the franchise quarterback moving forward. And Carolina's future is bright because of Bryce at that position.
Yeah. This is simple. The flashes, the high-level flashes that Bryce Young has had. And we're not talking about like one every 4 games. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about consistent performance for games that he has strung together over his last, well, let's see, he started 16 games this year, and then the final, 8 of 2024. So 24 games. I think that he's had 4 stinkers. Somewhere in that range. Find a starting quarterback that gives you the high-level flashes that Bryce Young does, the game-winning stuff that Bryce Young does, the creation, despite the athletic not feeling like he creates at a consistent level. I would disagree with that. But what do I know? They've got a terrific film evaluator and beat writer for him. I think that the consistent creative ability for Bryce Young is always on display, particularly in this offense that has struggled with offensive line play, that has struggled with consistency from their playmakers. Are there areas that Bryce Young can be better at? 100%. Are there areas that Joe Burrow can be better at? 100%. Like, what are we talking about, man? We see Matthew Stafford throw interceptions every time he comes to Carolina. I don't hear people talking about him being a bust and a loser. Too small, can't see over the line, right? No. Here's what you need to do. Here's what I think is the deciding factor for me with Bryce Young going forward. I want to see not more trust from Dave Canales and Bryce Young. He trusts Bryce Young. He believes in Bryce Young. Any narrative that says differently than that, you're not watching the games, because he is allowing Bryce Young to do a good amount. Here's what I want personally. When Dave Canales feels overwhelmed again, I want him to put autonomy in Bryce Young's hands. I want him to say to Bryce Young, look, man, like, this is the game plan is no longer the game plan. It ain't working. I need you to put the cape on. Have that, like, almost humbleness to go and say, humility to go and say, now's your turn. Now's your turn, son. Like get out there and do this thing. Because I think that if you were to go more in line with what we see sometimes with Bryce Young, where they open it up and they give him empty formations, where they give him his preferred looks, when they allow him to make more adjustments at the line. And I'm not even saying allow, because Bryce Young has the autonomy to do those things. Like, he does. But so many times we see the communication so delayed from Dave, either not being able to manage everything that's happening on the sideline or being a little bit flustered by the flow of the game. I think at that point, it's okay to cut it loose a little bit here. And that's what some great coaches do with some great quarterbacks. And they just haven't gotten there yet, which is understandable. They're in year 2 with each other, and they both have ups and downs. So I'm not surprised that they're not there. I'm saying that's where I want them to be going into next year. I want there to be this very symbiotic relationship between them, of when one of them feels overwhelmed, the other one lifts them up. Instead of this, like, when we're under or when we're overwhelmed, man, that's when we go under, right? Like, no. We got to have answers for shit. And I think that Bryce Young has more answers than people give him credit for. So I would love to see them allow Bryce to work his way out of some of the holes as opposed to trying to protect him from digging holes any bigger.
Well said. I see a couple people squabbling in the chat here about Bryce Young and how he's not going to have a long career. I don't know if anyone wants to dive into that. We can move on.
Hold on. What happened? What happened?
I don't know. I've been trying to read it. Circe. Or Sir Icy. I'm sorry. Maybe that's, Sir Icy.
That long of a career compared to normal quarterbacks.
I'll tell you what, I think this was talked about this week in the presser by either Dan or I think it was Dan maybe, or it might have been Dave, just about Bryce Young's toughness. You know, he was asked about the ankle injury, and Bryce he basically is like, what ankle? Like, you know, Bryce has come in and worked his tail off and hasn't complained. Everyone's dealing with something type of thing. That was the biggest knock on Bryce coming out of was his size and you know how slim he was. And dude, out of all those 3 quarterbacks that went in that draft, he's one tough son of a gun. I mean, he's played the most out of all 3 of them, and I'm talking Stroud and Richardson. So man, there's one thing I don't doubt at all, and that's his toughness, because we've seen him getting stepped on, even friendly fire this year. He just still came back. That Atlanta game was incredible where he came back.
And Kel Sr. here says, so basically give Bryce that Peyton Manning leeway. We're talking about like what I'm talking about with that autonomy at the line, autonomy to call plays and run like tempo, basically run the tempo offense when you're feeling upset. I'm not saying that he's Peyton Manning, man. We should give him Peyton Manning status necessarily. But are we sure that we don't every now and then, when he falls off his bike a couple times, are we sure that they're not over on the sideline like tightening on training wheels again and are like, well, hey, look, let's stabilize this, instead of saying, here, kid, why don't you take the helmet off and go out there and ride the bike then? Because you're falling down twice. I don't want you falling down a third time. Maybe if you're a little bit more worried about the head injury and you go out there and you ride like your life depends on it, maybe you'll ride better, right? That's what I'm saying. Maybe we stop treating him with gloves and we start treating him with oil, right? Slick him up and get him out there going faster. Speed him up and let him do what he's good at, man. This kid doesn't crumble under pressure unless everyone else is like really hyper aware about the pressure around him. So I think you just got to like eliminate some noise. But yeah, Kel Sr., a little bit of the Peyton Manning way. I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, super chat here, $4.99, Jake RP12. Cheers, sir. Appreciate you.
Cheers, Jake.
Cheers, Jake. Go Canes, man.
What a season, fellas. Enjoyed tuning into the streams this year. Lots of opportunity this offseason. Stoked to see how it pans out. Hey, man, we're pumped. I mean, keep stacking. They need to bring in some free agents. We'll be hitting on all that over the next several months, I'm sure. Let's talk about another guy on the offensive side of the ball, one that seems like the exit is inevitable at this point. Dan Morgan may think otherwise, and maybe that's GM speak from his presser and his conversations. But Rico Dowdle, you've seen the press conference this week and the exit interviews, said his decreased carries at the end of the season will impact his thinking. He also went on, quote tweeted our boy Rocket. I don't know if y'all saw that little exchange, but I'm trying to pull it up. I had
Shout
it
out
up.
Rocket, by the way. Rocket is always in some shit with somebody. Rocket's just out there making jokes, man.
Yeah,
Rocket's
he's having fun. He said, Rocket had said, Rico, you ain't had a 10-yard run in damn near 8 games. Bro, we don't care if you leave respectfully. And Rico quote tweeted that and said, the line didn't just fall off a cliff. Trust me, little bro, you'll see. So, yeah, I mean, Rico has been outspoken all season, honestly. That's just his personality. But thoughts on this? I mean, it sounds pretty much inevitable that he is not coming back. I mean, that's the read I have on this. I would be shocked if we see number 5 with Dowdle on the back. And I liked Rico. There's no doubt about that. He had a good run in the middle of the year, and things did taper off at the end. And I don't know if that was a culmination of the offensive line combinations, an injury on his part. Don't sound like it. Sounds like he's pretty confident in his ability. And then Chuba, his reemergence back with this team. Your guys' thoughts on his comments and also the handling of this, because there has been I've seen some chatter on Twitter, and I don't know how true this is, of, Carolina was always set on, they gave Chuba the contract and they kind of wanted to work him back in and, mend some things there because he had lost the job. And I know Ricky's shaking his head. And were they, trying to bring him back? Where are you guys at with this running back room, I guess?
Bryson,
Ricky,
you okay if I start this? You okay if I start this, Bryson? Because I'm already shaking my head a lot, so I might as well just. No, this was the plan. Rico Dowdle was a 1-year rental. And Rico Dowdle went nuclear for 3 games this season. 2 games particularly, but then also the Green Bay game, he was fantastic. And that's the story. That's the honest to God truth story. The first 3 weeks, Rico Dowdle was not better than Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard got injured. Rico Dowdle was terrific against 2 really bad running defenses. He was great against Green Bay. I appreciate that. And he was solid. He did his job. He worked his ass off. He wasn't terrific in pass coverage. He was a better receiver out of the backfield than Chuba. Chuba had more juice and more burst when he got healthy. Right around that Jets game when Chuba Hubbard started playing better, it wasn't because they wanted to mend the fences with Chuba Hubbard. It's because they wanted to win more games. And Chuba Hubbard gave him a better ability to win more games with his running than what Rico Dowdle did. That's the facts of the matter, man. If you watch the tape, you watch the games, Rico Dowdle was struggling for the last 5 or 6 games of the season. With footing, with contact balance, he wasn't running through things. The burst wasn't the same. You could say the offensive line, and that is a super valid criticism, in my opinion. The offensive line was not nearly as effective or physical up front, opening holes and changing the line of scrimmage for him. That is an absolute fact. And Rico Dowdle didn't do a whole lot to help himself. Rico Dowdle didn't do a whole lot to help Bryce Young in ways of broken tackles, right? And creating in space. Chuba Hubbard at least had that put your foot in the dirt, go type of burst and downhill approach. Rico didn't do that anymore, man. Like, this is the thing, man. Rico Dowdle could go somewhere and he can get a bunch of money. And if he thinks that he's going to get the lion's share of carries, good luck. I bet you're going to end up in a committee wherever you are, because that is the way that the NFL goes. Jahmyr Gibbs is in a committee, for crying out loud. Jahmyr Gibbs. Are we sitting here saying that like Rico Dowdle is Jahmyr Gibbs? Don't forget too that Jonathan Brooks is coming back. Jonathan Brooks is running back 1 if he's healthy. And that's even over Chuba. Chuba is the biggest chemistry piece in this locker room outside of like a Bryce Young, a Derek Brown. Chuba Hubbard is the spirit of the Carolina Panthers, bro. He always meant more than Rico Dowdle. I'm sorry for the people that loved Rico and that were, hey, we get rid of Chuba and bring in Rico. That wouldn't work. If JB is healthy, Jonathan Brooks is running back 1. Chuba is a terrific complimentary running back, and that's why he's on the 3-year deal, right? Like, they want him to be the backup while Jonathan Brooks becomes the star. And that's how this league works. I'm sorry, but it is. No hard feelings against Rico Dowdle, but this isn't some sort of thing where I think that we're going to regret this decision, personally.
Yeah, and I don't think Rico really understood the meaning of that graph that he quote tweeted Low Rocket with, because it showed him being the second worst running back in the NFL yards after contact. So just a side note there, but yeah, I mean, I think Ricky touched on it throughout the, final 6-7 games of the season. Chuba Hubbard was the better running back, plain and simple. More juice. Rico just had a consistent. I don't know if it was an injury. But it just felt like he could not keep his footing in games, man. He just continued to slip down when holes would open up. It was almost 0 yards after contact through those final couple games of the year. Just ineffective, man. And I wholeheartedly agree. Appreciate what he did for this team, especially through the middle part of that season. Really kind of juicing the team up to get them back on track to make the playoffs. So appreciate that. But I have no, I'm not sitting here saying this is someone Carolina has to re-sign. I agree. I think Jonathan Brooks coming back is fantastic. I mean, that is someone that's kind of forgotten amongst Panther fans, and someone that if he returns to the same ability that he was at prior to this second ACL tear in a row. He's dangerous, dude. He is dangerous, and he's going to be a good player for Carolina. Someone that really, like, his ability to break tackles out of the back, like, it's just something we don't have right now. And adding that to this room it's just a plus, man. You don't have to go out and sign him. You don't have to go out and draft him. He's here, and he's coming back from injury, and we hope that he's healthy to start the year, which he should be, and really kind of have a prominent role in this team and stays healthy throughout the year. So I'm good with moving on from Rico. I think he earned a contract somewhere else with what he did here in totality. I don't think he's a bell cow starting running back. Like, he's getting 1 through 3 down carries. I think he'll be in a committee somewhere else, and I don't think that's necessarily what he wants, but I think that's very likely. I think he can be good. If I had to guess, like, if I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, what we saw from Rico early on versus what we saw the end of the season, I think I would say he was battling some form of injury that he just hasn't talked about or the team hadn't talked about, and I think that affected him pretty mightily there towards the end. But I'm good with moving on. I think they've allocated a lot of resources to that room, especially with a Chuba contract and then drafting Jonathan Brooks in the second round. You got ETN this past year in the draft. I think that room's pretty set with Brooks coming back. So good luck, Rico. Thank you for what you did, but we're good in Carolina.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. I love the Rico pick. Was a fan of him last year.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, you were.
Top 175 running back in the NFL. That's what you called him, right?
Yeah, exactly. That 3-game stretch he had, Ricky talked about it. It was special. I will say this, and I'll be honest about it. If I have a healthy Rico and a healthy Chuba, I'm taking Rico Dowdle every day of the week. I like the style of a player he was. He added another element to this offense when he was healthy. I can't stand seeing Chuba drop the ball in the backfield, and I can't stand seeing Chuba fumble in big moments. He had a big moment this year in a fumble, and he had a big moment last year in a game down the stretch.
So did Rico.
And those
So did Rico. What did Rico do with that flea flicker?
Those plays is what holds me back from loving Chuba as much as I did Rico. Now, with that said, I don't think Rico was healthy at the end of the year. I don't. I think he struggled mightily, and I get why they went back to Chuba. It was obvious when Chuba was healthy, he had that burst again, and he looked like he did down the stretch last year, where he was, he looked like a damn good back. I do think Chuba still has his similar struggles though on some things that he has struggled with since he's been in the league, and that's what kills me. But on the flip side of that, Jonathan Brooks, we need that dude healthy, because if he is healthy, he adds what we need in that element, the pass game. He's elusive as hell, and he adds an entirely different element to this offense that Chuba doesn't. And that's what we're bearing on. If he is healthy, Bryce Young will finally have a security blanket out of the backfield on a third down when we really need it. And when there's a guy barreling down on Jonathan Brooks, more than likely he's going to make a miss and get a couple extra yards. And that's what Carolina has been missing on this offense.
And it's interesting that they didn't let ETN get more run during the season when both of these backs seemed like they had not necessarily hit a wall, right? But they had lost some of the burst, some of the juice, and some of the fresh legs that they had. It was interesting they didn't go to ETN, because ETN does have a little bit of that. Like, I think that the problem is, man, that the way that room was comprised this season, like for this season only, right?
That's the reason why.
It was all complementary players. Like, I love Chuba. You guys know I'm a big Chuba fan. Chuba is best served as a complementary back. Chuba can handle the bell cow responsibilities of being a first and second down kind of guy. Like, that's no problem. He can do that. But he is going to be most effective if he does not have to be out there in passing situations. He's a good pass blocker, but he's not a terrific receiver out of the backfield. He is not a home run hitter. Having a complimentary guy to go with him is how he's his most effective. Jonathan Brooks should be the lead back. If he shows up anywhere close to what he is, he's going to win that competition. He's going to be the lead back.
But I also think, to kind of rebuttal that a little bit, I do think Chuba is one where he does better as he gets going. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he needs, when he gets more reps in the game, that's where you really see him flourish. And I don't know if that's going to hinder what he's the most effective at. We'll see.
Isn't that also probably because we've only seen Chuba Hubbard get a bunch of carries? Have we seen Chuba Hubbard get 9 or 10 carries with a dynamic running back beside him? We have one point, and that was with Christian McCaffrey, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Jonathan Brooks is Christian McCaffrey, but Chuba can be a complementary piece as a secondary player. He does not have to be the guy. And I think that Chuba proved that this year as well from a mental standpoint. He's not bothered by not being like looked at as the fan favorite, the guy, everything else. Like, that's not his MO, dude. Chuba did you hear him talk about getting into the playoffs? This dude was so excited about having put the work in here in Carolina and getting to this point. He loved it for him. He loved it for his team. This is a team player. And he's also hyper aware, I'm sure, of the shelf life for running backs. A guy like Jonathan Brooks helps extend his career. A guy like Rico Dowdle doesn't. Get Jonathan Brooks in there, let him be the guy. And I bet you that Chuba is going to carve out a nice role. He's still going to be a leader, and he's still going to teach Jonathan Brooks the ropes. And then Trevor Etienne can actually serve his role as a little change of pace every now and then, play a little special teams, all of those kinds of things. But Jonathan Brooks is the key to all of this. Like, make no mistake about that. And I get everyone having concerns about the ACL and all that. He's been gone for a year. He's going to have all offseason to build strength and to get confidence and do all of that. From a physical standpoint, I'm not scared. From a mental standpoint is the only thing that I think is the question mark here.
Can we talk about that for a minute? Because you made me think of something. And that was the draft class of last year. 2 years ago, the Leaguette draft class. And I know we don't want to talk about the negative side of this, but let's say it does take Brooks a bit to get back or whatever. And we're looking at a draft class in Dan Morgan's first year that might be the only big hit was Jalen Coker in that entire draft class. I mean, we were talking about misses in the second round because you have a back coming off of 2 ACL tears. Trevin Wallace. There's other guys that I'm missing. JT Sanders in the 4th round. And there's a couple others in the back end. You have Michael Barrett. I guess you could say Michael Barrett gave you Mike Jackson. So I guess that could be, if you want to consider that. But like this 2024, right? 2024 draft class, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2024 draft class of a bomb. I mean, you bombed it. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think of that? Obviously, there's some hope here that Jonathan Brooks does come back, and he is this missing element to this offense a little bit. But man, I mean, the first 7 rounds looks rough.
I think that's going to be the beautiful poetic part about it, Bryson. I think Jonathan Brooks is going to come back, and like everyone hated the Jonathan Brooks pick more than anything in that draft. That was the one that got criticized the most. And I think it's going to come back, and that's going to be the part that is redeemable, right? I just truly believe in the talent there. But no, when we were talking earlier, Bryson, about the defense and about talent and the scheme and all of that, like, is that the problem? One of my big concerns is, are they going to be able to evaluate properly and get the right pieces in here? Shaw Smith-Wade as a 5th round pick, you're going to have to allocate something better at the nickel position. The nickel position is an important position, especially for this defense. You're going to have to bring in a real talent for that spot. And that's no offense to Shaw. I know that, Curtis, was it you that really liked Shaw that told me I was way out of my element for saying that I wasn't sure about Shaw? I think you said that I was a Shaw hater, but I'm pretty sure
we both did, and we both called you up. But I'll tell you what, I'm on that bandwagon. He's terrible.
Okay, good deal. I'm just checking the pulse. I'm just putting the fingers to the neck, just seeing if there's still breath in there. I just think that, look, first season, the rest of the team around it probably wasn't as built for success as well. Then you get some new pieces in. They're a little bit better. Let's see what happens this season, right? Let's see what happens this offseason. I like what Dan Morgan is able to do as far as finding gems. But I need him to hit on like the first 3 picks of this draft. Like we need the top picks to hit.
Yeah, his first draft was, I think, questionable to be kind, and the second one has been very good. Coming off of this year, I do agree with Keaton here. I don't think Trevin's been terrible, right? I think from that draft, I think he's shown improvement. Obviously, missing him towards the end of the year hurt this defense, but he's got room to grow. I mean, he hasn't been like stellar, right? But he's not a total wash from that draft. Definitely left some stuff on the table, stuff to be desired from that draft class for sure. Definitely got still a lot of prove it. Can Xavier really get to it? Can Trevor Wallace take that next step? Jonathan Brooks comes back healthy. You know, the class could look better down the road, but right now it's not looking great.
Good point here by Kivo as well. They turned over the scouting department, and that was after the draft. And a lot of people had questions about that, right? They were wondering, why would you do that after? It's because they've already done all the work. Like those scouts have done the work. It is still up to your GM, right, in your decision makers to give the final call on it. But these scouts, they've done the work. They changed over that scouting department. So there was somebody else in the chat, I believe it was Icy, says, how did he go from a horrible draft class to a real good one? I'm curious. Well, first of all, there's also the personal aspect on the players. Development matters for the players too. Confidence could change a player. Injuries could change a player. And being thrust in roles where they're not supposed to. I saw somebody bring up the Shaq Thompson and the Deontay Johnson. Chris Dillard, appreciate you, Chris. Brought up Deontay Johnson and Shaq getting injured and how that forces players into roles before they're actually envisioned in being in them. All of that stuff does matter. But what sucks is that when you get 2 or 3 years into it, right, and you're not seeing progression, that's where the whole like chicken and egg thing happens. Where is it coaching or is it the player, right? Either way, you can't just sit on that egg for a fucking week while everyone else is getting hens. You know, like everyone else is getting chicks born and we're just sitting on this cold egg. Like at some point, you got to move on and find yourself a nice warm egg.
All right, let's go to our super chats here. I apologize. We'll go to B Pays here first. Who will be, and this is a good question. I did want to touch on this. I appreciate you. $2 first. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I nominate B Pace to be our backup quarterback because of the fine fella he is. All right, well, mute your mic, you coughing SOB. God damn, Bryson, who do you think is going to be the backup quarterback for the Carolina Panthers next year?
Yeah, I haven't thought too much about this, but a name that comes to mind, a veteran who's well-traveled, by all accounts, a great locker room presence. I'll go Jameis Winston. I think they had Jameis Winston this offseason to back up Bryce Young. Great interviews, funny dude. Like, he can get in there and sling that thing. He might throw a couple interceptions, but he's going to throw the damn ball, and he's going to take his chances. So I'll go Jameis Winston.
My initial thought was Sam Howell.
I wanted to go next, damn it.
Well, you were still coughing. I couldn't tell. My initial thought was a guy like Sam Howell because they talked about youth and development, and I know that he'll be a free agent next year, I believe. So I thought that getting a guy like that in there that has a little bit of mobility to his game, that you could kind of emulate a little bit more of what Bryce maybe does on a week-to-week basis, maybe having more of a, flat line there. Malik Willis is a name that's going to come up a lot. I don't think that Malik Willis is taking a backup job, guys. I think that Malik Willis is going to go and get a starter job, whether that's as a bridge quarterback that he earns his right for a new contract, or it's a competition where he beats out the incumbent, which I don't think is happening here. I think that Bryce Young is the quarterback. They're not bringing in competition for that spot. They're bringing in development for the backup spot. And the way that they talked about it, they did seem like they're moving on from Andy Dalton, which is why Jameis Winston or somebody older like that, Bryson, for me, doesn't necessarily connect with what they were saying about moving on. Because they talked about signing J.J. Jansen and the punter back, but moving on basically from Andy Dalton. So I think that they have a key on trying to get younger there. Do they bring Jack Plummer back? Didn't he just get drafted? He got drafted by the UFL, right?
Dude, half the Panthers
Is he Birmingham?
got drafted by them.
Yeah. Good for him, man.
Yeah.
Good for him. All right, Curtis. So who was the one that you wanted to say?
Yeah, well, now you got me second guessing what I was going to say because I agree with you on the age thing. I'll throw out an obvious one, a guy who both Dan Morgan and Canales was with in Seattle, and that's Russell Wilson. I know that, but that goes against what Dan Morgan was saying. That's why I kind of backed off of that. I know, but like there's familiarity there.
Could it be a rookie? Could it be a rookie?
It could be. What about a guy like, and I don't know what he signed through. I don't know his contract, but Kenny Pickett, maybe he's a little bit younger.
Oh, fuck. I hope not.
But that could be a guy. I'm just looking at the list here.
I would go with Tommy DeVito. I would go with Tommy Cutlets over Kenny Pickett in a heartbeat. We can change his name. He could be, Tommy Pulled Pork or something like that. But like, I don't think that we need Kenny Pickett. I'm sorry. I know.
I'm just looking at the list. That was
yeah. 44 Rose.
He's younger because I agree with you. I think they do go younger. I do.
44 Rose says Garrett Nussmeier. That's a possibility later in the draft. I think that could be a guy that they like. That they, a John Mateer even from Oklahoma. Some of these guys that have some physical traits that pop for you that you like whether it's the gamer or whether it's the big arm, whether it's the arm angle. I think there are certain things. Jared, I know, brought up Clay Klubnik for Clemson. Maybe that's a guy that they like. I think the Klubnik would be interesting. He's got the toolkit, right? He was a big time recruit. There's a lot of interesting things. Did Drew Lock? Is that what you said?
I said Trinidad Chambliss.
Man, that's an interesting thing that's happening with him. That kid wants to go back to school, which is telling me that he's not getting the best draft reviews from people. But at the same time, you got all these analysts that are saying, dude, come out. This a weak class. It's your best shot. And the kid is scrambling to go back to school. So there's something interesting there with me. I haven't.
What about the guy from Vanderbilt?
Oh, Diego Pava. Yeah.
He's a fun college quarterback.
He's a fun college quarterback. That's a great way to say it, Bryson.
Well, that was a fun one. I appreciate you, Pace, for putting that out there.
I think we have one more, right? One more super chat we need to get to.
Yeah, ban the flea flicker. I think we all agree with that one.
Amen.
And I see everyone was bringing up the Kyle Shanahan one he played. I mean, come on.
But this ban the flea flicker comment, first of all, cheers, Talon.
Cheers.
Also meeting Talon and his dad
awesome.
At the Panthers fans tailgate. We all shared some Panthers punch together. If you've never been to the Panthers fans tailgate, by the way, it's right behind Bank of America Stadium, right across from the practice fields.
Recommend it. That was fun.
Check that out. Really fun time, man. That's where Alex and I shot a Kitty Lit episode. Really fun tailgate. Awesome people. Liquor carts, beer carts, all kinds of fun shit, man. Ban the flea flicker. Talon brought it up when Curtis was trying to talk about Chuba Hubbard's fumbles. And I said, well, what did Rico do with the flea flicker? And then the chat also liked to bring up, now we didn't get a super chat for it, but the chat liked to bring up, what about the lateral? When he told him to lateral it earlier in the season. Chuba Hubbard fumbled when he's getting hit. And I get it. That's not terrific. You got to have ball security. Rico Dowdle made mental mistakes about saying, hey, we should get rid of that ball sometime soon. He chose to do that shit. And you want to criticize
I blame Dave.
Chuba.
I blame Dave on the flea flicker. You put your players in a horrible position on that one.
If your ass is on the floor, stop trying to throw the football backwards. Sit down, Rico.
On that.
Sit down.
But anyway, everyone wanted to bring the Kyle Shanahan thing up this past week with Jennings, right? Jennings was the one who threw it. Beautiful pass, by the way. I tweeted out he had a more beautiful ball than Purdy did. No, but anyway, I agree with you, Talon. Let's get that one out of the playbook.
That was also a completely different play. That Shanahan thing, dude, was wildly different. Wildly different. But hey, I hear the sentiment.
All right. I wanted to bring up some of the other stuff, but I don't have time. I can't pull it up. It's fine.
We'll do another episode one day.
Yeah, we'll get there. But no, we appreciate everyone for tuning in tonight, 5:30 after a playoff loss. We thank you all for coming on here. We will have draft coverage, and we have the Senior Bowl coming up. Is it the Shrine Bowls at the end of the month? Is that what's
Shrine
on
Bowl,
the
yep,
30th?
Yep.
And then the Senior Bowl. We obviously have the Combine and the draft. So we'll have a bunch of stuff coming out. We'll drop some stuff when we're doing all that in the coming weeks. I'm sure we will take a week or two off to kind of regroup and just kind of see where we're at. But we will be back. I don't want to abandon y'all because you guys love us, and I'm sure you want to see the content. So we'll be back, but we appreciate every single one of y'all for tuning in this entire season because you guys made this special for us. This was a pretty big year for us three here at Panthers on Tap. I'm speaking for all of us. Between the live streams, we did a bunch of giveaways for y'all. Thanks to you and sending us, the gifts and the memberships and everything else, because that made that all possible. And I can't thank you guys enough. This season has been fun. It's fun when Carolina Panthers football, they win, and we can celebrate some things. The Ricky victory videos every week, that was so much fun with y'all, and we'll continue to do that. Maybe we'll add a little flair, maybe Ricky updates. We'll see. We got a whole off season.
Curtis signing me up for shit right now. Maybe Ricky will do a little bit more work. You fucking lazy piece of shit. Maybe get a little extra going. Hey, Curtis, before you sign us off, can I answer one question on here?
Yes.
B Pays and Keaton asked about the Carolina draft guide, asked if I've started it. You guys cool with me giving a little bit of an update on what we may be doing with some of the draft stuff? Yeah, underway, guys. I love this, by the way, the dribble. That's hilarious, Keaton. You said that to me the other day too. I appreciate that. But some fun news. Curtis just talked about doing, draft coverage and stuff like that. You guys may be familiar with my show with Edgar Salmingo Jr. we do called Draft Crush. This season, we are going to have Draft Crush under the Panthers on Tap umbrella. It is going to be focused specifically on the Carolina Panthers draft, where we will be breaking down prospects. We will have guests in to break down prospects. We will do full on the same Draft Crush show, but Bryson and Curtis will be with us for a handful of the episodes. Some of them, maybe one of them, maybe all of them. Who knows? We're going to just see how it goes, but we're going to bring Draft Crush right here to Panthers on Tap. So if you subscribe to Panthers on Tap, you will now get Draft Crush coverage as well. Once we get the Draft Crush or the Carolina Draft Guide put together, we'll have that out probably a couple nights again before the draft, depending on how long I have to burn that midnight oil and how much grace my wife gives me. I'll have it out as soon as we can. But yeah, man, we're in it, and I'm really excited for Panthers on Tap to get exclusive ability to cover the Draft Crush stuff with me and Edgar, because a lot of fun last year. We had some great guests, and Panthers on Tap should be your only place that you go for Carolina Panthers draft news. So I'm excited to bring it right here to Panthers on Tap.
And I haven't talked to them about this, but I do want to be a part of this year, is because I was at the draft in Green Bay last year. Is that first night, I would love for us to do a live reaction stream of the actual draft as it happens. And I think that will be great interaction with both us on the panel here and then obviously the chat. I think that'd be fun to do. And I know we did that last year, but I definitely want to be a part of that. But Bryson, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to hop in. I was going to say I'm super excited about the Draft Crush stuff. Adding that, I think that's going to be super interesting and fun to do to provide for you guys. But also just wanted a brief reflection of the year. Like we talked about it a little bit before we all got on. I think without a doubt, Curtis would agree. We've been doing this show for 4 or 5 years now. This year was our biggest year in growth and growing our community. And we are so thankful for everybody that has joined us, that tunes in and listens to us three drunk idiots by this time in the episode talk about football. The Panthers gave us a product this season that was exciting to talk about for most of the year. We got to talk about playoff football for the first time doing this show. And I'm just super thankful for everyone that has joined in, that has listened. It's been an exciting year. For a long time, we were doing this just for the fun of it, like no money involved whatsoever. And now we get a little bit of money and do these giveaways and try to give it back to you guys in so many different ways. And it's only up from here, man. I'm excited to see what next season brings, what this offseason brings. and just super thankful for everyone that tunes in on a weekly basis.
Cheers to that.
Finally nailed it, where we had the cheersing thing actually happening during a moment where we needed the cheersing, and not when we were talking about something else. And Curtis was like, "Hey, look at these buttons. I'm going to hit one real quick." I love it. Now, I echo the sentiment, and then we'll head out. Love what this show became this season. Love it. My second season, my first full season, right? Did I was not full season last year?
I think you were full last year.
Full season. Yeah. So second full season. This was the most fun I've had producing content for the Carolina Panthers. And it wasn't just because the team was better. That played a huge part, right? It's always better to talk about the Carolina Panthers when the Carolina Panthers are fun to talk about. But this group here, me, Bryson, Curtis, really, we talked about this at the tailgate. The point of our show here, Panthers on Tap, is to have fun, provide information, give analysis, and connect Panthers fans in a place where we can all enjoy this sport that we all love so much in one place. And meeting every Wednesday night for beers is like hanging out with your buddies at the local, watering hole. It's exactly what I want it to be, man. The camaraderie, couldn't ask for anything better. We've had good guests on. We hope to have more. We hope that the Draft Crush will get some cool guests. You guys let us know which guests you want for that kind of thing too. But this season, I'll remember it as my favorite. And I think that we are destined to have even better seasons going forward.
The chat wants that video, Ricky. Do you have it loaded up, man? They want it one last time.
I don't know if we can
W video? Should we really?
No.
The South. The NFC South video.
The NFC
Come
South.
on.
We could do the NFC South because, we did win the
Do
NFC
it.
South.
One last
hold
time
on.
for the chat.
Look, Curtis is a little bit hesitant about this, and you guys know what that typically means I'm going to do. I'm glad y'all asked for that video because you know what? The Panthers earned that thing. They earned that video, man. NFC South champions, man. Let's not forget that. Hell of a season,
Cheers,
Panthers.
guys.
Appreciate everything.
Cheers.
Here's the 2025, man.
Now, one other little teaser. We have been working on merch. We will get that out this off season and into the new year. We've had some things made that we've been testing to make sure everything where we want the logos, everything else. So we will get that out. And I know we will probably at some point do some sort of small little giveaway to all of our members for free with that. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, we will be back in I would think in a couple of weeks here. And we'll talk about that. We'll finalize that. We'll put it out on our socials. But as always, thank you guys so much for a great season, honestly. And we will see you guys in a few weeks. And as always, keep pounding.